Once again, if you haven't already filled out a speaker card and wish to speak to the public, speak to the council, please complete the public wishing to speak to council form located at the end of the counter and give it to the council clerk as soon as possible. Individuals addressing the council should be respectful of others in their choice of words. All cell phones, pagers, and electronic devices used for communications should be silenced for the duration of the meeting. I'd like to call the meeting of the Terrebonne Parish Council on Wednesday, March 23rd to order, and I will say the prayer followed by the pledge. Dear God, please be with us today as we deliberate matters before this council. Help us make the best decisions to the best of our belief and knowledge. And please, let's remember the people who are suffering as a result of the recent tornadoes that happened yesterday. Be with them and their family as they recover. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Hampton, roll call.
Mr. Trosclair. Here. Mr. Navy. Mr. Harding. Here. Mr. Michel. Mr. Amade. Here. Mrs. Domain.
Here.
Mr. Darren Guidry.
Here.
Mr. Babin. Here. Mr. Dirk Guidry. Here. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum present.
Thank you very much. Approval of minutes of the regular council session held on February 23rd, 2022.
Second.
Move Mr. Amade, seconded by Mr. Dirk Guidry. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Distribute minutes of the regular council session held on March 9th, 2022, which we've done. Approve accounts payable bill list for March 14th, 2022 and March 21st, 2022. Move Mr. Dirk Guidry, seconded by Mr. John Amade. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 1, general business proclamation proclaiming the week of April 3rd through the 9th, 2022 as Junior Auxiliary Week in Houma, Louisiana. Ms. Domingue.
Yes, thank you. It is my great honor to read this today. A proclamation, whereas the Junior Auxiliary of Houma, Louisiana, a chapter of the 81-year-old National Association of Junior Auxiliaries, Incorporated, represents a serious endeavor on the part of women to be active and constructive participants in the community and to assume responsible leadership in meeting community needs. And whereas the mission of the National Association of Junior Auxiliaries, Incorporated, is to encourage member chapters to render charitable services which are beneficial to the general public, with particular emphasis on children, and to cooperate with other organizations performing similar services. And whereas the Junior Auxiliary of Houma has actively worked to perform the mission of the National Association of Junior Auxiliaries, Incorporated, in this community since 1975 and should be recognized for its ongoing efforts. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Terrebonne Parish Council, on behalf of the Parish President, Gordon E. Dove, and the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, that the week of April 3rd through the 9th, 2022, be hereby proclaimed as Junior Auxiliary Week in Houma, Louisiana, sponsored by the National Association of Junior Auxiliaries, Incorporated, and that all citizens, civic and fraternal groups, news media, and other community organizations be urged to join in the salute to junior auxiliary volunteers who have been an important presence in this community since 1975. Be it further resolved that this proclamation be presented to the Junior Auxiliary of Houma and duly acknowledged on this 23rd day of March 2022, signed by Mr. Gordon Dove, Mr. Darren Guidry, and endorsed by the entire Parish Council.
Would you guys like to say 2 words?
Hang on, I'll turn the mic on.
Thank you so much. My name is Katie Porcher. I'm with the Junior Auxiliary of Houma. We are an all-women's service group in Terrebonne Parish. Our work is primarily with children and women in need in our parish. We work with a lot with the McDonald Home, the Hooper Dorm Home, and Lewis Children's Crisis Center, providing activities and mentorship and just generally love to these children. We also do service projects with the senior citizens in our nursing homes and such. And so thank you so much for allowing us to have this proclamation. We will spend that week celebrating the good work that we do, that we can do because of the support of the parish and the council. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do. Mr. Michel.
Ladies, thank you all so much. No, y'all look good. I just wanted to thank you all so much for everything y'all do and for taking care of the most vulnerable in our parish. And if there's anything that we can do to help y'all, please call on us. Thank y'all. Take care.
All right, item B, discussion and possible action regarding summer camps at the West Homa Gym and the Mechanicville Gym. Mr. Navy?
Yes, Candace, I just want to kind of discuss this situation. I got Diane Collins here, too, with the West Homa Gym. Are we still moving forward with these summer camps? I mean, I think it's very vital now, especially after Ida and these kids are not having a really safe haven, especially for the summertime.
Yes, sir. So the summer camps are in our 2022 budget, so it's available. The rec districts have until April. I looked this up Monday and I forgot to refresh my memory
I'm sorry,
today.
say it again?
The recreation districts have, I think, until April 30th to submit to us the request to have a summer camp and for us to help fund it.
Okay.
And then after that, we'll go through the process with them.
Okay, but my thing is, are we going to still deal with the same organizations that did it before?
It's run through the rec districts.
It's going to be run through the rec district?
That's how it's been in the past, except for the one that we do with Miss Diana is the after-school program.
Okay, but then we did summer camp the year before with that?
It's been a couple of years because of COVID. I'd have to go back and look.
Okay, let's discuss that. I'm gonna put. Can I table this for next meeting, because I want those summer camps to happen, and I don't necessarily the responsibility of the rec districts running summer camps. I'm not sure if that's going to be very effective. I think that coordinating with these agencies that we've been working with in the past would be more effective. That's actually able to work with these kids on that notion. So let's look at that again. I'd like to put that back on the agenda for next council meeting.
I think it's a good idea, Mr. Navy.
Yes.
And you know, that's not the only areas. I got a phone call today from the organizer who organized the St. Bernadette child care, and they've not been able to have theirs last year, and as a result of the storm, theirs is damaged. So I was, you know, I'm working trying to find them a location as well. Rec 23, their Lisa Park gym is damaged and can't be used. So we're all struggling to find locations, and parents are really struggling to find a place for their kids. So anything we can do to help, I think, is important. Item C, update from administration on the current status of the Homa generating station, including future plans and insurance coverages. Don't know.
Mr. Michel.
Mr. Michaud.
Okay, I don't see Mr. Ernest Brown here, or is there somebody else who's prepared to discuss this?
Yes. Mr. Hebert.
Okay. My question is, it's my understanding that the plant hadn't been operational since Hurricane Ida. And so I'm wondering, what is the plans for rebuilding, or if we're going to refurbish, or if we're going to do repairs, or if we're going to completely replace it, or if there are other plans that we're not aware of. And also, I would like to know if this outage, which is no one's fault, but if this outage is affecting our contractual obligations to provide power to the grid through MESA, whoever it is we provided for, MESA. Yeah, I mean, you know, this has been awfully quiet. I just, you know, I'm not always the most on top of everything, okay? But I called some other people who have more time than I have, and they didn't know anything about it. So I wanted to ask about it. I was hoping Mr. Brown would be here, but
You never called me, though.
no, you're right. I absolutely never. I did not call you.
So your first question is the administration has taken an RFQ for engineers, and they came in. The packages, I understand, from Candace and administration just came in today, and we don't want to discuss them because they haven't been evaluated. But they hired an engineering firm to help assess the damages at the power plant, obviously, there's going to be, I think, an evaluation between do you repair it, do you replace it? So those are the evaluations that want to take place. As you know, there's insurance, and there's insurance with regards to the MISO situation without getting into any legal. As I understand it, MISO has, we've had to buy some extra, and I think Candace can assist me with that, but we bought some extra capacity credits, and we're in the process of looking at to see if we cannot in the future get some form of exemption. So, because the plant is not running.
Okay. And then, you know, many of our employees who work there seem to be concerned because they haven't had any information. And, you know, I'd hope that administration would keep them informed also, especially in light of the conversation that we had Monday about trying to retain employees and trying to do what's right by those employees. That's all the questions I have.
Well, if any employee has any questions, they can direct those questions to Mr. Ernest Brown, who's the utility director, and if he's not sure, then you go up the ladder, they can be sent to the parish manager, Mr. Mike Toops.
Okay, and I'm just wondering why Mr. Brown isn't here today. That's quite unusual to me. And that's all the questions I have. I don't know if anybody else does.
Ms. Domingue.
Yeah, and I appreciate this being a topic. We had a significant power outage in the city this past weekend. It actually spans about 2 days. And so, you know, one of the things that I'd like to see is maybe we table this, kind of like we did the one earlier, and Mr. Brown could come back, we could see kind of what the plans would be as far as moving forward with any improvements or anything like that. I know we've got some money coming into the parish, and so, you know, improving on our power grid I think would be really important. And so, you know, I appreciate Mr. Michel putting this on the agenda and so that we could discuss how we're going to move forward. So thank you.
Well, with regards to your power outage, I don't think that had anything to do with that wouldn't have been the power plant, that was the distribution. I think the distribution was struck by lightning, and that's power poles and receptors, utility receptors. That has nothing to do with the power plant. But the power plant, as it stands right now, obviously is they had to hire an engineer to help with the summit assessment, and they are, according to the parish president, they are looking at a couple of alternatives, but they got to get that engineering firm hired first.
Absolutely. And we appreciate having all that information. And that's how we can dispel rumors, especially when people call us, because if we don't know that information, then we don't have that information to give to our constituents who call us when the lights go out. And so tabling this, I think, would be a really good discussion for us to have in the future. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. Item D, introduce an ordinance to authorize the lease of property at 7842 Main Street at the corner of Main, Church, and Belanger Streets, Houma, Louisiana, 70360, parcel number 19175, from property owners authorize the parish president to execute any and all documents necessary to lease this property and to provide for other related matters thereto, and calling for a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, April 13th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. Move Mr. Danny Babin, seconded Mr. Dirk Guidry. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
John David made the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, John Navy made the motion and Mr. Guidry seconded it for the record. Thank you. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. Moving along. If I can turn the page. Item E, introduce an ordinance to supplement ordinance number 9199 to authorize the acquisition of property and/or sites and/or servitudes required for the Bayou Terrebonne Drainage Improvements Project by boundary agreements and/or a lot line adjustments and/or exchange property, to authorize the parish president to execute any and all documents necessary to acquire property and/or sites and/or servitudes for the said purpose by said means, and to provide for other related matters thereto, and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, April 13th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. Move Ms. Domingue, seconded by Mr. Amity. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 2. Public wishing to address the council. Mr. Wilfred Joseph wishes to address the council on community concerns.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. I came here once before, and I think I talked to you all about our drainage system that we was hoping we can get some work done on the closing in our ditches, because the ditches are falling in from over the years, spraying chemicals, and it's just some people's mailbox is almost in the ditch. So to me, digging is fine. Mr. Carl came down and had the ditches dug, but you can only dig so much, right? So I just wish you all would keep that in mind. And our community concerned that we know money coming in the parish, and we don't want to be left out. We're a small community in Levittown. Well, I live at 102 Octavia Street, I'm sorry, in Levittown. And we're one of the neglected communities around. Most of the black communities are. And we hope that when this money come in, that you all think about us down there. We was at a meeting the other night, the budget meeting that you all had. And I was listening. I don't know a lot about this, you know, because I live in a non-secular world, and it's the secular world. I consider myself a Christian. I'm a Sunday school teacher. That's what I do. And I heard people asking about numbers, how much it costs to do this, and how much nobody ever gave an answer. If I went to my boss with a project, and if I asked my boss for money, first thing he would say, how much it gonna cost? That's the first question. So I heard you always talking about hiring consultants. And, you know, one of the things that I kind of noticed that nobody said what was the industry standard for consultants, how much it's going to cost. And I know you all going to discuss it tonight about extending I think that's what you all said. But if I went to my boss and I didn't have numbers, he'd run me out the door. You know, so you all was talking about who all you had for lobbyists and this and that, but nobody would give an answer to what it costs. And my concern as a member of the community is, hidden costs, by the time it trickles down to my community, there's going to be no money left if we don't know what these things are cost, amen? So we need to know, and the last thing I'm going to say is about the election coming up Saturday. I didn't understand when I was here before that all this started, the seed was planted with the Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, well, yeah, we can't discuss a ballot issue that is currently on the ballot.
Okay. I didn't understand. I wish I would have. I would have had more to say. But I just wanted to make sure you all, and you, Mr. Guidry, January 22nd, I think you was headlining in the Homer paper saying that all of Terrebonne will benefit from the monies that's coming from Washington, D.C. So we just hope our communities, Levittown, Johnson Ridge, or elsewhere, the communities that's often forgotten, is included in the all. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. And I think I guarantee you've got a champion here in Mr. Harding who's going to make sure that Levittown is not forgotten when it comes to funding. So thank you. Mr. Chris Pellegrin, Jason Benoit, Courage Industry? I don't know, maybe you could explain that.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, my name is Chris Pellegrin. I'm the Executive Vice President and a Principal of CSRS, Disaster Recovery Management. I just wanted to come here tonight and introduce myself and my team. I was born and raised here in Houma, right there on Wolf Parkway, and I really look forward to the opportunity to help this community grow and recover from the storms and any future events that might be coming. So with that, I just wanted to introduce myself and let you know that we're real excited to be part of this community and help. So I'll turn it over to Jason. He can introduce the rest of our team.
Thank you, Chris. Jason Benoit, currently Program Manager for CSRS, formerly Senior Planner for Terrebonne Parish, 2001 to 2004. My address is 214 2nd Street, Elton, Louisiana, currently, and formerly 501 July Street, Houma, Louisiana. This is one of those situations where maybe the formal matters more than the present, but I started my career here. Worked very closely, actually, with, I want to recognize Mr. Wayne Thibodeau, sitting right here. Mr. Wayne Thibodeau. He was council member whenever I was working as senior planner here. Very instrumental in some of the progress that we had, grant management-wise, in the early 2000s. at the time, the largest grant ever awarded to Terrebonne Parish. Y'all might recall Hurricane Lily, $10 million grant. We got a lot of people helped out then. As my career went into consulting, I've worked basically every major storm since then, through tropical storms, through hurricanes, Sandy, New York, Puerto Rico, Texas, Florida, Louisiana storms. Lots of experience that now I have the opportunity to bring back to you guys. It's come full circle, and I'm really excited about that opportunity, as well as I can appreciate what you guys, your job, and the things that you guys go through. Representing the public is not an easy task, and we're here basically to communicate with you guys. You've seen me here at some of these meetings. I'm trying to get a feel for what the parish needs and the personalities of the council. I'm here to work with you guys. I will be here at these meetings as we continue these grant It's a very important process to recover. So I'm the face of this program. I will be your program manager. I have a strong team behind me. And I want to introduce part of that. I want to tell you before Courage comes up, I've worked with Courage for over 15 years. He was my quality control manager. I was the project manager for Road Home for the state of Louisiana, and he ran my quality control team. Above all, we want to make sure things are done right, and I think that's what you guys' job is to make sure everything, all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and that is our job. So we're going to make sure. People talk about fees, people talk about what you're going to charge for this, what this is. I can answer that question with what is allowable by the FEMA requirements. So this is FEMA requirements, this is HUD requirements. We're going to make sure you are within those guidelines. We understand the laws, we interpret that for you guys, and we make sure you get full reimbursement for those fees. That's our job.
So we have a motion to extend by Mr. Dirk Guidry, seconded by Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Appreciate that. I will actually go into introduce and encourage, but I am available for you guys for any questions. You can contact me directly. I will be here at council meetings. We can have face-to-face. We can talk about this. This is very important. I look forward to helping you guys recover, and it's an exciting job for me, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
So without further ado, Mr. Courage Idusisi.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Courage Idusisi. I'm a managing member for Elite Services of Louisiana, a minority woman-owned DBE company. Be part of the team assisting CSRS with this project. Like Jason said, we've worked together for years. Every major storm, Hurricane Sandy, Katrina, Michael, flood of 2021, and we're currently in Lake Charles working as well. So we have a lot of experience. Jason mentioned great team behind us, and we're excited to be here.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Cornelius Bolden.
First, my obedience to the Trinity, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. To our president, look like in his absence, I don't see him. And to the ladies and gentlemen of the council board. I'm here for the concession stand on West Homer Gym, 100 William Avenue. Last year, we was told we had to shut down. Now, they had a problem on Martin Luther King Park, the ballparks on Martin Luther King. Well, we had nothing to do with that. But after that went on, they shut us down. Now, the gentleman that took, I think his name is Roddy, that took Sterling Washington Place, he called me and told me that, everybody called me Coach Snake. Coach Snake, y'all have to shut down. I said, why? He said, don't shoot the message to them. I got a message to give you. Y'all got to shut down. He never did tell me why we shut down, who shut us down. So we lost our insurance money. We couldn't make any money to gain back our insurance money. And we got the machine full, the machine broke, called Coca-Cola came and put in another machine. We went and got insurance again. We still ain't got it. Now, all the games just about done passed by, and we still don't know why we're not in the concession stand and why we was told to shut down. That's what I'm here for.
And of course, this isn't on our agenda, so we didn't invite Mr. LaReal or whatever to discuss this, but this may be an item we want to add to our next committee agenda. Let's do that, and we'll invite Mr. LaReal, and maybe if you, could we contact, if you could give our staff your contact information, and they'll make sure that you know, so that way you can come to that meeting. Does that sound good?
Okay.
Thanks, Mr.
Thank you.
Let's see, next we have, Mr. Michel.
Thank you for being here, sir. And then it might be a good time to note that we're going to be putting in place parish-wide in the recreation districts policies and procedures that are going to allow everybody to operate uniformly across the board, and it's going to help the districts and it's going to help the parish to help them and to lead them. So I think that that's going to be something that'll help us all. Thank you.
And, you know, I didn't recognize our former parish councilman, Mr. Wayne Thibodeau, and I do want to recognize Mr. Wayne Thibodeau. Mike Lagarde, a member of our school board, and also Mr. Jerome Boykin, director of the NAACP. Thank you all for coming. Did I leave anybody else?
Mr. Horace Johnson, Justice of the Peace.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Horace Johnson, Justice of the Peace. Hey, Mr. Horace, how you doing? It's hard to recognize people behind those masks. Mr. Kevin Thompson?
Yes, sir.
Hold on one second.
Go ahead, Mr. Thompson.
Good afternoon to the council. We back here. I think we came here Monday to you guys' Budget and Finance Committee meeting dealing with the award of the grant for FEMA and HUD and other federal monies. I'm a representative of HGI, who for whatever reason feel that they were unfairly disqualified from applying for the opportunity to participate in the distribution of the federal money from FEMA, HUD, and any other federal money that's coming down. It's my understanding that a letter of protest was sent to Miss Sharon Ellis, which I believe that should be a part of the record. I don't know Miss Ellis. Is she present? No. That's the young lady that's out there on Plant Road, where we sent Miss Sharon Ellis, the purchasing division at 301 Plant Road, a notice of protest and a request for public records under the Louisiana Public Records Act in evaluation and award of solicitation of number 22-RFP-03-2022, grant management and administrative services for HUD, FEMA, and other federally funded programs. So respectfully, we would ask on behalf of HGI LLC that this council suspends any awarding of whoever may have been hired until HGCI's grievance can be heard. And that's what I'm here for tonight. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Seeing no other speaker cards?
What's the other public hearing? Well, we don't have to have them, but it's next.
Yeah, it is next. I was waiting 30 more seconds according to my clock. We're just about getting to 6:30. There we go. All right, I'll call the 6:30 public hearings to order. Item A, an ordinance to authorize the parish president to execute an intergovernmental agreement on behalf of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government between TPCG and the Terrebonne Economic Development Authority, TEDA, to continue to lease space to TEDA in the government tower and to continue joint efforts to promote industrial and economic development in the parish of Terrebonne, Louisiana. Public once, public twice, third time public. Motion to close, Mr. Dirk Guidry, seconded by Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Danny Babin, seconded by Mr. Dirk Guidry. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Ordinance B is an ordinance to amend the 2022 adopted operating budget and 5-year capital outlay budget of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government for the following items and to provide for related matters. Houma Police Department, Louisiana Commission on Law Enforcement Grants, $17,385. Houma Police Department, Louisiana Commission on Law Enforcement Grants, a credit of $110,206. Houma Police Department, Edward Byrd Memorial Justice Assistance Grant, $12,859. City Marshal, $16,750. Houma Police Department, $10,599. Animal Shelter Donation, $100,000. Planning, $10,872. Planning Department, $12,000. Maintenance of Levees, Facilities, Planning and Control, $3 million. Parish Farm Agent Department, $6,500. Montague Fire District Number 6 Generator Project, $22,027. And La Petite Theater, $84,000. Public once, public twice, third time public.
Second.
Motion to close by Mr. Michel, second to Mr. Harding. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Dirk Guidry, seconded by Mr. Steve Trotsclair. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. C is an ordinance to restructure Chapter 21, Article 5 of the Terrebonne Code of Recreation Districts to enact Sections 21-49 to authorize the regulated use of low-speed vehicles in Bayou Country Sports Park. Public once, public twice, third time public.
Second.
We have a motion to close, Mr. Michel, seconded Mr. Harding. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Second.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Michel, seconded Mr. Harding. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item D, an ordinance to authorize the permanent relocation of Terrebonne Parish precinct polling locations due to damage arising from Hurricane Ida until further notice. Public once, public twice, third time public. Motion to close, Mr. Dirk Guidry, seconded by Mr. Harding. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Dirk Guidry, seconded by Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. And item E is an ordinance to certify and approve an ad valorem tax exemption in accordance with Louisiana Revised Statute 47:4314B for property tax located at 7934 Main Street in Houma, Louisiana, owned by Marfo Incorporated, bearing Terrebonne Parish tax parcel number 20396 in regards to its restoration tax abatement renewal application to Terrebonne Parish Office of Commerce and Industry. Mr. Matt Rucker.
Matt Rooker, Terrebonne Economic Development Authority. I'll keep my comments brief, but just by way of background, this is a renewal that started in a previous administration where TEDA had some control over the local input. There's been significant changes since Governor Edwards' executive order in 2018. And so what we thought we would do, since this original application came, is that we would use this as a starting point to start bringing these applications through our board process, ensuring and discussing them at the process, and then providing the council a recommendation on behalf of our authority, given that it's very much in our wheelhouse. And so this is the first one of those. There was unanimous support for this renewal. And so I just wanted to give the council that background, and again, happy to help on any of these issues as they come up. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rucker. And I apologize for any of those watching this video. who just saw a podium right there. That's not going to happen for very long because we are getting a new system that will prevent the chairman from having to manually change all of these, be director at the same time as being a chairman. And so I apologize for that. Public, any more public? Public once, public twice. Third time public. Motion to close, Mr. Danny Babin, seconded Ms. Jessica Domingue. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion to adopt, Mr. Steve Trosclair.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Jessica Domingue. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item 3, Public Service Committee. Mr. John Amity.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Public Services Committee held on March 21st, 2022, and I have no public hearings.
Motion, Mr. Amity, seconded Mr. Guidry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item B, Budget and Finance Committee. Mr. Carl Harding.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, there you go, Mr. Carr.
Thank you, sir. I make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Budget and the Finance Committee held on March 21st, 2022, with the exception that the action taken to award request for proposal number 22-RFP-03 to be subject to ruling of the Protest Review Committee, and I have one public hearing. Introducing an ordinance to amend the 2022 operating budget and the 5-year capital outlay budget of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government for the following items and to provide related matters. Louisiana Highway Safety Commission grant award $81,585. Home Police Department LCLE grant $101,250. Home Fire Department, Police Department, LCLE grant $22,169. General Fund Council Meeting Room, $145,000. Hazardous Mediation Plan, $86,921. FEMA Elevation Program, $496,545. And Bayou Country Sports Park, $500,000, and call for a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, April 13, 2022 at 6:30 p.m.
We have a motion by Mr. Harding, seconded by Mr. Dirk Guidry. Mr. Hebert has a caution for us and avenues of discussion.
Yes.
You were there. Go ahead.
My advice to the council is we have gotten one letter of protest from Hammer and Gaynor, which I believe Mr. Thompson refers to as HG&I. He was not the attorney who signed that letter, but the protests, so because this matter, a demand has been made against the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government. It is my advice that this not be discussed. I did not have a chance, not be discussed tonight. It's a legal matter. My advice is that it be approved subject to the review committee's or protest committee's decision. If they affirm the decision of the review committee, then it's approved. If they reverse the decision of the committee, the original review committee, then it will be disapproved. So it's a conditional approval. Subject to the protest committee. The protest committee is being formulated, and we'll meet and make the decisions on it. And so that's my advice. Other than that, we should not discuss anything tonight.
But we can discuss the items around the motion, around.
That is correct.
Without details
that
of
is
the
correct.
situation.
I do not want to answer legal matters that should be handled confidentially.
And just please let us know if you see any discussions go in that area. Thanks, Mr. Hebert.
I think everybody on here is intelligent enough to understand what I'm saying.
Thank you. Mr. Michel.
The big question that was not answered that has nothing to do with who was selected is how much this is going to cost us. And he's making a recommendation that we approve this without knowing how much it's going to cost is ridiculous. Now, I have to hand it to Mr. Chris he answered the question in one sentence. It's going to be FEMA, the charges are going to be FEMA requirements and HUD requirements. That's a pretty simple explanation that assures this council and the public that it's going to be appropriate charges. I was perfectly pleased with that. My concern is, why weren't we shared that information on Monday, and we were asked to send email requests to the CFO to ask questions. When I asked that question, my reply was that I had to do a public records request to get that information. Did anybody else get a reply saying that they needed a public records request? Did anybody else ask a question? Why am I having to get a public records request for something that we have to vote on when there's there's a perfectly legitimate question asking how much is it going to cost? Can somebody answer that question for me?
Mr. Abair, would you like to address that?
Well, why?
Yes, what I get into the details. Again, I explained this Monday night, and I'll explain it again. This isn't the first time that this government has done a request for a quote. It is a request for a quote. A contract has not been confected yet. That's number one. Number two is that the quote was put out and was put out to the public and could be addressed. That's number two. It could be viewed, okay? All right, it's a task order quote that has hourly rates, and the task hasn't been issued yet. That's all going to be part of the contract, all right? And so the contract could have issues that will be reimbursed as part of the programs and may not be. At those appropriate time, those task orders would be presented back to the council before it is spent. If it has to be spent where it's not reimbursed grant money, then you would approve it for the money at that time, because no task has been issued, because no contract has been issued. Well, you don't know what the tasks are or what the costs are. You have the hourly rates, okay? If it's reimbursed through the Pacific program, whether it's HUD or FEMA, this is a disaster recovery program to help with the emergency. It's in the proposal, okay? So if it's reimbursed by some governmental agency, then as it was done standard here all the time, there is an amended budget that goes for the reimbursed money, and that's how it works. So that's that, number one. Number two is, if you look at the request for proposal, the request for proposal says that any person who wants documentation concerning the proposal must submit a public records request. Mr. Michel, we've been through this with you before.
Yes, we have, and I'm the only one that y'all required that for, sir. I'm the only one y'all required that for. Another council person sent in a request for the same information, and while they didn't get specific answers, they did get an answer, and nothing was said about a public records request. This is a political situation, and now we have the CFO involved in politics.
Hold on, wait, Mr. Michel.
Mr. Michel, that you have been explained and been given the law. Number one, in our code, it states that no one, including the council, can get confidential information. Number two.
Mr. Abair, hold on. Did any other council member request those documents that Mr. Michel requested?
Well, I don't know, because I do not do the public record, so I do not know whether or not.
Mr. Black, did you receive?
I did not request it on public record.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I requested it from the CFO.
Okay, well,
I shouldn't have to request it on public record.
No, you have to request it from the. You have to.
Why didn't the other council person who requested it from the CFO not get that same response?
Okay.
We've been down there where I've explained that the Attorney General states that if an individual councilman wants records, in order us to assure that the confidentiality of the exempt records, we have to have a system. I rented that about a month ago. I thought that was cleared up again.
And it's a beautiful rendering.
Okay, all right.
Well, I think you've answered it, Mr.
Okay, so I'm just saying, just cooperate with us, Mr. Michel. Mr. Michel, let me speak before you interrupt me. Or I'll turn it over to you, and you go ahead and say what you want to say, what you want to do. You want to talk? Can I?
Okay.
I'm just asking you, cooperate with administration. Cooperate with us, and
yes. Yes, sir. Hold on, Mr. Trosclair.
All right. I'm just saying, cooperate. I've issued the process. Please follow the process. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll be glad to follow the process, assuming everyone else has to follow the same process, which does not appear to be the case.
And everybody should follow the same process.
But it's not happening.
You're right. Mr. John Navy.
Yeah, Jules, you said a committee. Who could be on this committee?
Hold on, Mr. Hebert. Go ahead.
That's a very good question, Mr. Navy. The proposal that was issued, because I want the record clear. RFP, request for proposal 22, RFP 03-2022, grant management, project management, administrative services for HUD, FEMA, and other federally funded program, states that if a protest is done, there will be a committee, a protest committee that is appointed by the parish attorney. That protest committee has been selected. In the following, you would like to know who's going to be on that committee? Is that what you asked?
Well, I guess my question is, who can be on that committee?
Well, it's who can be on that committee is who I select. And normally, what is normally done when you have a protest is obviously the people that have made the decisions and sitting on there and made the decisions have a right to go back and review their work. They will be done in concert with legal counsel. So the people that will be on the committee, would you like for me to disclose who's going to be on there? Is that what you're asking?
Well, I guess my question, and I should have made it, I didn't make my question very clear. What I mean, is it a choice of you, or can we put somebody, like if I wanted to be on that committee, could I be on that committee?
No, sir, it's the choice as the request for proposal was drafted. The committee, the protest committee was designated to be the parish attorney, which I did not draft this. I didn't even see it when it was drafted. That's how it was. Was drafted the request for proposal. So it says if there was a protest, that the parish attorney would designate a committee to sit as the protest committee. Okay.
Okay.
But you haven't put together this protest committee.
That committee is put together.
Okay.
Okay. That protest committee.
And I think they were asking if there was anybody besides the original group that's going to be on the committee.
Yes, there is. There's going to be 4 people that are going to sit on that committee, which was the original group plus a councilman. Okay, which is Mr. Carly Hardy.
Okay. Ms. Domingue.
Oh, I take that back. And Mr. David Rome. The protest committee, excuse me, I forgot one. David Rome.
Public Works Director. Thank you.
Yeah, Jules, will we as a council be notified of the results of the protest?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question.
Yes.
Thank you.
I will notify.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Domingue. Mr. Babin.
Yeah, and Jules, I know we've done these things before, okay? But just in the spirit of transparency, if administration feels that we may not understand the process, the simplest thing to do would just be to tell us in advance that this particular process, for us, pricing of it or cost of it goes this particular way. All right, we may not be as astute to all of this as you guys are, because you deal with it on a more regular basis. But we do have to deal with the constituents, and when they hear figures like $500 million, okay, and they know that, and the constituency is pretty intelligent, and they know that engineering fees are normally 10%. Okay, so the first thing, basically, Jules, okay, the first thing they thinking is, that's $50 million going somewhere, okay? Well, if we're not completely convinced that that's that way, how do we pass that on to them? So all I'm asking that in the future, when these things come up, if maybe we should ask more, but again, we try to ask those things at a committee meeting, and sometimes we can't speak about them. All I'm asking is maybe educate us more on the process, okay? Because this one seems to be, not that it's open-ended, that's the wrong terminology, but it's basically set by HUD and FEMA and everybody else what the fees will be. Does that make sense to you?
I do. Can I respond, Mr.
Yes,
Chair?
please do.
Thank you, Councilman Babin. I do understand, but I can't ask something that I'm not. I can't answer something that I'm not asked, and I don't think anybody else can. This is a standard RFQ that was put out. It was made public. This is not necessarily as it was explained, and if you read the proposal, if you look at the proposal and as it's written, it's got the scope in there, what it's for, and it explains the background and the scope of the work and what's going to be done, and the scope of services. So I don't know where $500 million is coming from. I believe that it was said that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that this relates to this particular proposal. There is a lot of, I think in general what has been discussed is that there will be a lot of emergency disaster-related funds that will be available through various forms of governmental agencies such as HUD, FEMA, etc. Okay, now somebody has to go get that money and acquire that money, and it takes a ton of paperwork to try and go out and get that. And then there are built-in guidelines within that. So Ms. Malden obviously runs that department, finance, and she knows what she needs help and what she can do. She's got a lot on her plate, like we all do with this disaster recovery, and your parish president.
Mr. Pappan, you want to clarify?
Yeah. Again, I'm not, everything you're saying is true, Jules, okay? But we got way off on this the other night simply because I'm not going to say that I understood it all, okay? But when I look at the backup that we had, okay, which was very little, and the very first item says cost to perform services. 10 points on the scaling system. Evidently, it must be pretty important if, first of all, that it's on there, and second of all, it's the number one item. And that's all I was asking. It was to give us a general idea what something would cost, okay? I understand it can't be specific because we have no idea what's coming, how much is coming, nor when it's coming, okay?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Babin. Mr. Trosclair.
Yes, thank you. Jules, on the this little addendum that was read as far as per the review committee, that our vote is contingent upon the review committee findings. Protest.
Yes, sir.
On the findings regarding the protest is where I was going. If that review committee comes back saying that the original recommendation as presented is good to go, that doesn't have to come back to the council for anything, does it?
No, it does not.
So at that point, things move forward.
It moves forward.
Okay, so what's the time frame we looking at this review? You have any idea?
Yes, I do. The request for proposal provides that. The request for proposal requires that when they had knowledge that they had to send in their protest, they sent it in. From the time of the protest, we have 15 days to conclude the entire process. We have 10 days from the time of their protest to give them a response. Okay, and we're diligently working on that.
So what you said is if everything comes back as was originally presented, in 15 days we can move forward. That's what I'm looking. I'm looking to move this thing forward. I'm not looking to drag it on anymore.
Well, no, we can't.
So I want to move forward just as quick as this thing can move forward.
The protest committee will meet because we're under deadlines by the request for proposal has in there, request for quote has in there, the deadlines we have to meet. All this has to be concluded within 15 days of yesterday. Okay, actually, it's got a 15-day total limit, but it's actually even faster than that, and it'll be done.
And it'll be done at that day, we can start moving forward.
That's correct. It's either going to be affirmed that what the committee did was correct, or it's going to be no, it didn't, and it's reversed. Okay, it'll be one or the other.
Okay, thank you.
And that's why I said make the motion contingent. If it is, it doesn't have to come back. If the protest committee reverses, then it would have to start the process over again.
Thank you, Mr. Hebert. Mr. Michel.
What deadlines are we talking about? Are we talking about the deadlines for the protest process, or are we talking about the deadlines for the grant itself, for the contract, for the RFQ and the responding to that itself?
No, we're talking about the 15-day deadline once a protest is
Okay.
made.
But after the protest is, that process is going to be complete. It doesn't mean we have to.
The notice of award will then be sent in everything's spelled out in the request for quote. It's spelled out. The notice of award then will be sent and advised to the person that's intended to be awarded the contract, and then a contract has to be put together. All right. So, in other words, a request for a quote, next step after that is you notify them, and then a contract has to be drafted and put together.
Anything else, Mr. Michaud?
No, I'm just smelling it.
All right, Mr. Harding.
Yes, I agree with Steve. You know, man, we can move forward this the process. You know, I mean, of course, you know, I mean, when I was placed on the board was an agreement back over there, and I'm aware of that. And my motion that I actually placed on here, and then the awareness of it, and then the discussion that we had previously, which was Monday, and the discussion was in reference to the time frames that we were dealing with. The consideration, number one, was the possibility of us having 3 weeks or perhaps 5 weeks to actually have an understanding about what we're going to do according to our council meetings. So what you're actually saying now, within 10 days, 15 days, less than 15 days, or we have 10 days plus 15 days, which is 25.
No, sir.
Oh, hold on.
Let me re-respond, okay? Maybe I can, okay. What I'm saying is that when we got their protest letter yesterday, we have 15 days for the whole process, the maximum amount of time, okay? Within that time period, we got 10 days to put together a committee and give them a response to what they have alleged that they believe it was the committee did not evaluate properly, okay? And within that time period.
Yeah, and accepting that, you know, I mean, the reason why I'm asking the question, because, you know, I mean, I accepted the fact, you know, I mean, to actually put myself in a position to actually witness the process, you know, not that any improprieties was actually implicated in there, but then in reference to the review, I wanted to be in the room to actually listen to what's happening. So my position, again, is still that, you know, I mean, that's basically within a particular time frame that we were asking for an extension of that. So anything other than that. So to go back to what we were saying, and I need to address this to Candace. Candace, the time frame that you were talking about Monday, that time frame, we didn't know.
Right.
Okay. Within the time frame from me asking you, the window that we had pertaining to the question that we were asking, how long can we go? The 3 weeks or the 5 week? Regardless of what he's saying, because I know we didn't have any idea of the protest at that particular time. So
the protest has the 15 days. The RFP that went out, the notice of intent to award was a to be determined. So that date is to be determined when everything is complete.
Okay.
Just maybe you'll understand a little more like this, Carly. If you get the protest in, the RFP set up that you don't sit on the protest and wait a month before you set it. So once you get the protest, you got to move quick and get all this done and have all this completed within 15 days. That means I couldn't have got the protest yesterday and said, I'm going to set the committee up in a month from now and then have another 10 days. All this is going to be finished from the start of the protest. Now it's done. Now we got 10 days to respond. Okay? Yay or nay? Up and down. Okay, so we're gonna put the committee down. We're gonna have it all reevaluated. A decision will be issued. A written decision will be issued.
Anything else, Mr. Harding?
No, that's it.
And even after you send the letter, Ms. Candace, I mean, you're then going to have to negotiate a contract with this company, which adds time to it. So before they could even perform hour one, I'm sure you're looking at probably a couple of months in the process. And so,
Yes, sir. We have to come with a contract, and then we also have to start working on the task orders. Since it's based on task orders, we'll have to issue the task orders on how and what we need them to work on. So that'll take a couple of weeks to get all of that in place as well.
and I think that was what Mr. Trosclair's point was, is that, there's still a process, and the sooner we start that, we're still far down the line before we actually begin any tasks that, delaying that delays when the tasks are. So I understand that. Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item C, Policy, Procedure, and Legal Committee, Ms. Domingue.
I make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Policy, Procedure, and Legal Committee held on March 21st, 2022, and I have 2 public hearings. Number 1, introduce an ordinance authorizing the parish president to execute a renewal of a right of use agreement between Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government and Harold Cleveland Sr. for the property that bears a municipal address of 408 Country Estates, Houma, Louisiana, 70364, and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, April 13th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. Number 2, introduce an ordinance to adopt the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government Personnel Policy Manual and call a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, April 13th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m.
A motion by Ms. Domingue. Seconded by Mr. Dirk Gidry. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 4, street lights. As per Mr. Dirk Gidry. Seconded Mr. John Amity. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? 5, appointments to various boards, committees, and commissions. The Bayou Cane Fire Protection District, 1 expired term. Mr. Nicholas P. Hebert expresses his interest to be reappointed. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Babin. Oh, I hit the wrong one.
Open, close, and appoint Mr. Nicholas Hebert.
We have a motion.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Domingue. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item B, Recreation District Number 1 Board, 1 vacancy due to resignation. Mr. Peter P. Verrett III submits application and resume for consideration. Mr. Amity.
Motion to open and motion to open, close, and appoint Mr. Verrett. I'll get it out.
A motion by Mr. Amity, seconded by Mr. Gidry. Mr. Michel?
Oh, I wanted a second. I'm sorry. I thought you had to press the button.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item C, Terrebonne Arc, 1 unexpired term due to resignation. Mr. Ronald Chauvin submits application and resume for consideration. Mr. Edward P. Rome submits application and resume for consideration.
Motion to open, close, and vote.
Mr. Babin?
Motion to open, close, and vote.
Motion, Mr. Babin, seconded by Mr. Dirk Gidry. Mr. Hampton, roll call.
Mr. Trosclair? Mr. Chauvin? Mr. Navy? Mr. Harding?
Chauvin.
Mr. Michel?
Mr. Rome?
Mr. Amade?
Mr. Chauvin?
Ms. Domingue?
Mr. Chauvin?
Mr. Darren Guidry?
Mr. Chauvin.
Mr. Babin?
Mr. Rome.
Mr. Dirk Guidry?
Mr. Chauvin.
And Mr. Navy? Mr. Chairman, you have 7 votes for Mr. Chauvin, 2 votes for Mr. Rome.
Thank you very much. Item D, Recreation District Number 7 Board, 1 expired term. Mr. Jude A. Landry submits application and resume for consideration. Mr. Dirk Gidry.
Motion to open, close, and appoint Mr. Landry.
Second.
A motion to open, close, Mr. Landry, seconded by Mr. Steve Trosclair. Motion was made by Mr. Dirk Gidry. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item E, Recreation District 2-3 Board, 3 expiring terms. On May 31st, 2022, Mr. Ren Halford expresses his interest in being reappointed. Mr. Gerald Michel.
I'd like to hold this over since we have this election coming up.
We have a motion to hold Mr. Michel. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Harding. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. 6, vacancies to various boards, committees, and commissions that are still vacant, are coming vacant. The Veterans Memorial District, 1 unexpired term due to resignation representing the parish president south of the Intercoastal, and 1 expired term representing the Vietnam Veterans of America. Recreation District 2-3 still has 3 expiring terms on May 31st, 2022. Recreation District number 7 board, 1 expiring term on March 25th, 2022. Recreation District 11 board has 1 vacancy due to a resignation. Terrebonne Parish Tree Board has 1 expired term on February 23rd, 2022, and 1 vacancy due to a resignation. Terrebonne Arc, 3 expiring terms on May 31st, 2022. Houma Board of Zoning Adjustments, 1 vacancy due to a resignation. The vacancy is for an alternate member. The Children and Youth Services Board, 2 vacancies due to resignation, 1 representing the Bayou Area Children's Foundation and 1 representing the Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office. And the South Central Human Services Authority has 1 unexpired term due to a resignation. Announcements, any council members? Mr. Babin?
Yeah, as I said at the last meeting, it's disappointing to see this number of resignations on boards and commissions throughout the parish. Last month we had 9, and 8 out of 9 were resignations, and it's just disappointing, okay? Because as we all know, we cannot function as a council without boards and commissions. So the second thing is this Saturday in Dulac, there's going to be a buyer cleanup. Starts at 7 o'clock in the morning. It's at the Anchor Church, which is the old school down there. So asking everybody to come and give us a hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Babin. Mr. Harding?
Yes, in reference to the movement of the voting polls, I think Mr. Hampton and Ms. Triggs, for the people in the public, the voting poll locations that would change, I wanted to make sure that those people give notice to the voting poll locations that will be changing. And we will be actually putting it out to the public to make sure that they can get familiar with these locations. And I thank Mr. Hampton and Ms. Triggs for putting this up for us, and we're going to be putting that on our website so to make sure that the people are very much aware of that. And I want to specifically say that those people that were in the high-rise, they're going to be voting at Southdown Elementary School. So that's a little distance from where they are, they were previously voting from. And then I'm going to make sure that they know that their voting place is at Southdown Elementary out of the high-rise. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harding. Mr. Michel.
And I'd like to remind everyone on the north side of the parish, in the rec districts 1, 8, 9, and 2-3, that there is an election to form the, it's not consolidate, what's the word? Merge the recreation districts. And I want to make it clear that that everyone knows that the North Terrebonne Recreation District has no interest in and no desire to endorse a yes vote or a no vote, but we do encourage everyone to go vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Michel. Mr. Dirk Guidry.
Yeah, I'd like to announce that DOTD has given out 2 grants to Terrebonne Parish. There's 4 grants that they issue out a year for this, and Terrebonne Parish just happens to be the recipient of 2 of these grants. One is to build a new pump station on Industrial Boulevard, and another one is to build a pump station on the lock system at the Bayou Terrebonne floodgates. So whatever they did and however they did it, I sure appreciate it, because I know the industrial pump station is in dire need of a new pump station, and the lock system is at Bayou Terrebonne. It's all a piece of the puzzle that we're putting together. So if anybody had anything to do with it, thank you. And the people from the Acadian Drive and Elysian Fields, we coming for a new pump station with y'all guys. Thank y'all.
And talking about the election on Saturday, if you voted at the Woodman of the World, I wish they could find a better place, but the voting precinct is at what they call the voting machine barn, and it's on Valhalla Boulevard, not far off of Hollywood, but it's kind of way in the back. It's behind a building. So please, if you don't know how to get there or what, please call the register before Saturday. In fact, they'll probably be answering the phone on Saturday and ask them. But it's on Valhalla Boulevard, just a couple of buildings off of the Hollywood intersection, but it's kind of way in the back. So please go vote. Monthly engineers reports. As per Mr. John Amity, seconded by Mr. Steve Trosclair. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion adjourned, Mr. Steve Trosclair. Seconded, Mr. John Amity. All in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thanks, guys.